I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the called meeting of the Ad Hoc Bylaws Committee of the Del Mar College District Board of Regents. It is 4:31 p.m. and we are in the Eisenseigh boardroom with also some participation by video and or teleconference. And due to the health and safety concerns related to COVID, this meeting is being conducted by video and or teleconference with some of us here in person as well. Members of the public were given the opportunity to offer some public comment ahead of time, but from what I understand, nobody did take advantage of that. Let me do a quorum call. I believe we're all here, but I will start with Dr. Lori Turner.
Present.
Susan Hutchinson.
Here.
And I am Libby Avert, and I am also in attendance. Let's have a moment of silence, please, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. And the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, will you please join me in the Del Mar College vision statement? Del Mar College will be the premier choice for life-changing educational opportunities provided by responsive, innovative faculty and staff who empower students to improve local and global communities. Thank you. Del Mar College is streaming live audio and video from the official Ad Hoc Bylaws Committee meeting on the college's website and in real time, with the exception of portions of the meeting considered as closed session by statute. As I mentioned earlier, the public had the opportunity to provide public comments by either calling in and entering an access code ahead of the meeting, and from what I understand, there was nobody who took advantage of that, so we will move forward with our agenda. Our first item is really a continuation of our review of bylaws and deliberation, and by that we're not going to make any decisions today, but just continue our discussion about the mission of this ad hoc committee and get into some of the work today, get into some of the weeds. And I want to recognize that Mr. Rivera is here with us today, as well as Dr. Escamilla. Thank you so much for your support in this important work. And Mr. Rivera and I did have a chance to talk a little bit at the last meeting we had 2 weeks ago. You may remember that we asked Mr. Rivera to do a little bit of research, come back to us with some ideas and some best practices from other colleges, and he has handed us a a lengthy binder. Clearly we're going to have some homework after today's meeting. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Rivera to kind of walk us through some of these samples, and then we'll have some good information to chew on before our next meeting.
Thank you, Regent Avert, and thank you, Regent Turner and Regent Hutchison, for being here and helping out with this important endeavor. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. A couple of preliminary comments. So the notebook that you have in front of you has a couple of other reference materials for you to keep in the notebook. It starts off with, of course, what you're studying, another copy of the bylaws, and you probably have 4 copies by now, so, but here it is in a notebook. You're not going to, as I understand it, be doing your laser beam focused look at this today, but that's ultimately what you'll be doing. And of course, as always, it's good to have a copy of the charter so that you're reminded of what you've been asked to review. And then tab 3 is another copy of the recommendations that have been made by your outside consultant, Weaver, on proposed changes. So you're going to be looking at those as well. Under tab 4, I've included for you a copy of a PowerPoint and an article that's related, because they're authored by the same individual it's authored by the same individual who presented at this NACUA meeting back in 2013 I'll tell you now that it doesn't specifically address community college bylaws, but it's just a general overview of bylaws. And I thought that you could maybe take a look at it to see, what kinds of best practices are encouraged when you're looking at what kinds of things should you be looking at when you're reviewing bylaws. So
And what is NACUA?
NACU is the National Association of College and University Attorneys. It's a group that Del Mar College is a member of, and I attend their conferences. It covers, it's a national organization, so they've got public, private, big, small community colleges, religiously chartered institutions. It's a pretty good group to be a member of. One of my beefs against them is that they don't always cater specifically to community colleges, but they're doing a better job of it. And if I can let out a personal note, they managed to put me on their board of directors for next year. So there you go. So I'm getting ahead of the game, but Robert O'Neill, and it's actually his article, as you go through it, he talks about some of the general principles that you should be taking into consideration when you're looking at your bylaws. What are the bylaws? How are they different from policies, for example? And you'll see in a second as we go through and I walk you through what we've been able to collect from some of your fellow community colleges around the state, that tends to get blended sometimes. And so.
So may I stop you
Sure.
very quickly? To that point, because I was thinking about that as I was reviewing the proposed policy changes, plus our bylaws, plus our code of ethics. From your perspective, Mr. Rivera, what is the difference? What's appropriate in the bylaws? What's appropriate in the policies?
So I've actually got a little cheat sheet here. I've got a
Great.
little chart. So bylaws are your fundamental governing rules, okay? They're high level. They should be higher level than your policies. Changes shouldn't be necessary on an ongoing basis. They should, be able to govern you, until something dramatic or drastic happens. They're a little more formal, they're shorter, and they take precedent over policies. Policies give you the nuts and bolts or the details of the operation. So they're detail-oriented. They should be more adaptable to change, although we don't like to change policies a whole lot, but less formal, they're longer, and they must be in harmony with the bylaws. And you'll see this. I'm giving you kind of a general overview of it, but you'll see as we go through some of the bylaws here how others have tried to work through that. In TASB, our risk pool carrier.
And I'm going to ask the Texas Association of School Boards. Right.
And Dr. Turner, you may be familiar with TASB. So TASB, which is the risk pool carrier for most of the K-12 school districts in the state of Texas, also has a number of community colleges that are members, including Del Mar College. They
Be important because of all the dual credit and all those programs that they're servicing. They really need to be working together.
Well,
So,
they have a voluminous policy handbook that they compiled over time, and it's what they recommend for school boards to adopt as policies, just as take it off the shelf and fit it in. They've attempted to do the same thing with community colleges to some success. Now, we do not subscribe to their policy service. So our policies are managed, we've created them and we manage them on our own without looking to TASB for that kind of support. But other community colleges do use TASB's policies. I'm not sure that's going to be a question that you will look at some point, but I'll tell you now that it's problematic. One size does not fit all. And Dr. Escamilla will tell you, even with respect to community colleges, they're 50, but they're so different. So But, and like I said, you'll see it in a second, but that's the policies are more, I think, designed for the institution to be able to use as their operational playbook, whereas your bylaws, you know, speak specifically to what you do as a board. And you know, yeah, spell out what you, how you operate, and like you covered last time. I mean, the list of different items. Does that help? Yes. I hope? Okay. So we won't go through this detail or slide by slide, but again, I thought it would be helpful for you to see that there, even after one meeting, you're already kind of hitting the mark and doing some of the things, looking at some of the things that this article and this PowerPoint highlight. So again, that's there for your homework reading. We put the most interesting, I thought, set of bylaws up first. It comes from Houston, the Houston Community College bylaw set. You'll see it's pretty hefty. And, you know, they've got attachments, and it's, you'll see from their table of contents, they've got more than you do. I mean, they have a table of contents, you don't, okay? So, you know, and they've got articles, and frankly, I think that a lot of this kind of blends over into what should just be in your policies, but they've got it in their bylaws. Okay. They're not following the rule of keeping things simple at a high level. They're getting very specific.
How many campuses do they have? Yeah. I mean, that's probably some
Multiple,
of it,
there's probably about 7 to 9
Oh,
primary
sure.
campuses, with each one of those having 2 and 3 centers.
Yes.
I
I think that's why it's
or
so
more.
yeah, that's why it's so comprehensive, and plus they all have different needs and so forth. So that's why you have all those attachments. And
It's a huge system. It's one of the only systems in Texas. Community College, Houston Community College System is what it's called. It is a massive institution.
Yep.
But I wanted to direct you to, I mean, Article A is their section on ethics. And I know that, you know, you all are particularly focused on looking at your statement of ethics, your code of ethics, and so you can see what they've got there. I wanted to show, they've got Section 5, Regents, you know, prohibited communications and political contributions. So there they have the specific Region neighbor, one of the subjects that was brought up about looking at what kind of communications should you have, you know, with vendors doing business with the college. Right. Your bylaws don't currently address that at all, but here's an example of you know, how they address it.
Is there, I may be jumping ahead of you, Mr. Rivera, but is there anything else specifically in the, thank you for pointing that out, because that is something we've talked about. Is there anything else in the Houston bylaws that pertains to something that we may have brought up but don't currently address in ours?
Oh, gosh. On page, on Article, in Article A, page 6, they've got their censure policy. Okay, I'll just point that out. You do have one, but they've got a few more details in it. But it's so detailed, it's pretty dense.
Where is that, Augie? What'd you say? Which section, which article?
Exhibit A, Article A.
Page 6.
Page 6, okay.
Yeah, page 6, I'm sorry.
Page 6.
Yeah. Mechanisms for enforcement.
And again, they just have, I'm not saying any of the information isn't accurate or helpful, but I mean, I'm not sure it's necessary.
Okay.
Towards the end, they've got a conflict of interest certification. It's, if you go to the back and then work up,
Oh, yeah. Exhibit A.
it's Exhibit A. It's confusing too with the number of exhibits I have, but
Mr. Rivera, do you know if and I'm just skimming this, but when a regent or a trustee fills this out in Houston, do you know if it is automatically made available to the other regents
I
or the other
don't,
trustees?
I don't know that,
Okay,
Regent. I believe it is posted on their website,
okay.
like we do here, but I don't know that it's circulated amongst.
Okay.
But you'll see, because as I understand this, this is not the actual conflict of interest form that you're required to file. This is almost a commitment to doing that. So a bit like what you all do, where you sign a separate document saying, I'm going to abide by these ethical rules. I thought that was interesting. I'm not, this is public news. I mean, they did have an issue with a trustee
Gotcha.
several years ago who got into legal trouble for accepting inappropriate payments in connection with contracting. So it's not, I guess, I don't know if this came after as a result of that. It may have.
So is this legally binding?
Uh,
Or is the one that we currently sign legally binding? Because there's no sense of them signing this if there's no,
Probably comes down to that enforcement, that
Yeah.
censure. I mean, what can you do about it? And the truth we found out is that you can't do something about some of those, but it still had value.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. The value in signing something like this, even though you can't get into legal trouble if you don't honor this commitment. Well, if you don't do what
Yeah.
you promise you're going to do, then you can get into trouble. If you don't file the conflict of interest form when you're required to do so, that's an ethical issue, a legal issue that can
Yes.
get you, sanctioned. But if you don't, this doesn't give you any additional legal problems. And your form, if you don't comply with some of those ethical rules, you can't be removed for it.
Yeah.
You can't be sanctioned in a monetary way. But I agree with Regent Hutchinson. I think the fact that you do it every year is a public commitment to others that you're gonna toe the line when it comes to matters of ethics.
And I think and if it does circulate, or at least it's on the web page, that just adds transparency that we abide with, what our commitment to the community is. Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. And again, I'm happy to answer any question. I mean, I know I'm giving this to you right now as you're starting out, but there's more material in there, and reading it, you might find something that you want to bring up or you want to include as part of the conversation as you look at what you should do with your bylaws, if anything. So, I want to make it clear that you're not, by reviewing it, you're not suggesting that you're going to change things. I think you've identified some items that you would like to have covered and discussed, but at the end of the day, you may not make changes, or you might make minor changes to it.
And I should have said at the beginning of this meeting that today is very much educational purposes
Oh, yes.
only. We definitely are very much still in that phase, and I appreciate you bringing this. This is exactly the kind of information that we wanted, so that we would have some time to sit with it, hear from your perspective, what are some areas that we may want to kind of focus on, and then eventually we will get more into the nitty gritty, but right now this is the good higher level information that we need right now.
Okay?
Can I ask, is there in here, I know we've got our bylaws, do we have our ethics, what we've been signing, whatever we call that?
You don't,
Okay.
but I'll get that
If
to
we
you.
could, yeah.
So
It'd
you
be
can
nice
include
just
it.
for comparison.
Right. I thought about that this afternoon, and I said, you know what? I don't have that code of conduct. And I said, Regent Hutchinson's going to ask me, and I'm going to be embarrassed. No, but good point. We'll get that to you to include in here. Because that was something that came up when you chaired the last committee that reviewed it, and good idea. And so,
And just looking quickly, I mean, I'm looking at some of the ones that are in here, and they seem familiar, but I'd like to do a side-by-side.
Right,
Yeah.
right. The next tab, item 6, is what Lone Star College has actually in their policies. And it's included just because it goes, Regent Hutchinson, to your question you're asking, these are some of the things that Lone Star College has enumerated as what they want their ethical code of conduct to be. But they've got but they've got more specifics. I mean, they've defined abuse of office. If you look at the second page, bribery. And this is all, just straight from the law. Defines what a substantial interest is. Conflict of interest abstention. It spells out the process for what you're supposed to do. Disclosure statements that you were to file when you have a relationship with a vendor or potential vendor. This is more detailed than you have, but this is specifically, what you asked about, So that's why that's included. Then you see the board powers, duties, and responsibilities, and this is something, this is more aligned with what bylaws look like. I thought it was interesting that they do have a whole thing in here on taxing authority. I think there's some good things in here. I think there are some things that don't need to be in here. But again, it's just an example of what they do at Lone Star. They have mixed in, as you can see, some, what I would say, aspirational stuff with nuts and bolts detail stuff. The very last one is on page 7 is advocates for the college. That's sort of an aspirational thing that's buried in there with well, just other details. Tab 7 is San Jacinto Community College. They are most like yours. Again, I couldn't figure out the source. The bylaws, when I began assisting the college in 2005, the bylaws were already in place. So I other than assisting with amendments, I don't know when they were first created. I guess they say 2000, they were adopted in 1978. And then there at the back of we have the dates of when it's been amended since then. But San Jacinto's are very much like yours in terms of approach, the sections that they have in there, the directness, the statement of board conduct. Again, that should look familiar to you because that's a lot like what you have. Duty, the officers, duties of the officers. They have committees, section, meetings. Again, it's like they use the same format, they use the same template that was used to put Del Mar's bylaws together.
So, Mr. Rivera, is this the extent of their,
bylaws.
and do they have anything separate from the statement of board conduct? Do they have something labeled ethics code at all, or no?
No?
Okay.
That's all we found. Statement of board conduct
Okay.
is it.
Their statement of board conduct looks a lot like our
Uh-huh.
statement of ethics too. It's just incorporated in there.
You will see, this is worthy of pointing out on page 5. At the end of that statement of board conduct, they talk about their censure policy. The Board of Trustees shall have the authority to censure a trustee found by the board to have violated the trustee's duties, statement of board conduct, or any other provision of these bylaws. Again, I think this is almost identical to y'all's.
So they don't have any specific policies, though? It's all in their bylaws?
They may. I think we stopped just because I don't think they have anything dealing with the board.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. That's all here. But I thought it was interesting because, I think San Jacinto does a very good job of, their board and how they conduct themselves. At least that's what I understand from their reputation, and the fact that it's similar to what you have is again, you're looking for what you want to be able to say exactly, what you want to be able to tell the board that we looked at what others do, and we're not alone, others do things differently, but we're not an outlier with what we're doing. Apologize on number of tab 8. That's what happens when you convert, I think, something to PDF with so it's missing a lot of letters. This is Tarrant County, and again, kind of like Houston Community College, there are a lot of kitchen sinks in here, and if you look, so you see those initials, BAA, so that's the TASB policy handbook reference. That's their key. So they have bylaws where they've taken, policy recommendations, proposed policies, and kind of merged them. So that's why it's so long. Lots of detail, They cover the same key points that y'all's do, I'm sure, but it's just a lot more detail and there's a lot more in it. So I don't know if you all would like that. It just seems to me to be more than necessary for your bylaws. Wanted to give you and not everybody, let me make this point here. Not every board has their bylaws available online. And I conferred with our colleagues up at Austin Community College, and he said that, I'm not sure why we don't have the bylaws up there. We kind of just rely on policies. So sort of what you're visually seeing here, like what Tarrant did where they're merging or morphing the policies over into bylaws. It's almost like they're going through the policies as operating under the policies as their bylaws. I'm not sure how you do that. I mean, to me, they're two distinct instruments. They have
Yeah,
two different functions.
Seems like an odd response. It's like they're saying they're not following their bylaws.
I-
I can see not putting it on there, just maybe they didn't think they were interesting, but they ought to be looking at them.
Right.
Yeah.
So he promised to send me a copy if he could locate one, but I think, I'm sure they have one, and maybe this is what they have. And by the way, this is our colleague, Mr. Caputo, Kavi Caputo, who's assisted the college before with matters, said, make sure you tell your committee that I thought y'all's bylaws were very straightforward. Yeah, he had to come in and actually, utilize them and put them into practice. And so he thought that they were user-friendly. So I said, I will pass that on to the committee. So we included a couple of examples from some of the smaller community colleges, Central Texas College and South Plains. Well, actually, that's the one for I'm sorry, that's for the foundation. I should have paid more attention to that.
Well, one of the things Tarrant County does have a statement of ethics.
On Tarrant, yeah. Well, this is under tab 9, Central Texas College. It is almost what I would say old school. This is what, this was put together when lawyers thought this is what bylaws needed to sound like and look like, and hasn't been updated in a while. And they're the ones that at the ACCT conferences, when I ask do you all have bylaws? Yes. When was the last time you looked at them? They're the ones. I mean, so you can tell. I mean, you can just tell this is not. This could be upgraded. Let me ask you to look at 11, tab 11. Now these are policies. And again, you see this is exactly how they look. This is how TASB puts them out. BBF legal. And I just wanted you to have these as examples. You'll see they're very similar of what, they have at Austin Community College for their statement of ethics. We've got Dallas. The one right before Dallas, I'm not sure which community college that's from, but they're all similar, okay? Because they're coming from the same place. And if you look at Houston Community College, that's exactly how they're organized, with little heading, board members' ethics, and then they'll have the language there. Put this in here because, again, you're going to be looking specifically at your statement of ethics, and you want to make sure that you're being inclusive, and this just provides you with some comparison. Any questions about any of that? And then finally, in your notebook, I've included an excerpt from the Community College League of California's Trustees Handbook. This is the handbook that I've used, specifically the section on ethics, and borrowed from in putting on your annual ethics training. And I wanted you to have the actual section from it. So once you get past the, and you'll see, I've said before, it's a weighty document, and I only included the first page of the table of contents, but it's like 150 pages long, and there it is, 157 pages. If you look at page 49 of the document, chapter 12, the advocacy role. Oh, no, sorry. I'm not sure whether those other pages. Chapter 13, page 51, where it says ethics and laws. Regents, this provides, in my opinion, after having looked at resources out there for a few years now, the best explanation of the role of, the ethical role of a community college trustee. I've never met her, but I understand that the author of this, Dr. Cindra Smith, and I don't know, Dr. Smith, do you know Dr. Smith in California? Yeah, she's retired, but because I met her successor at one of our sessions, but she's held in high regard, and she, ethics were a big deal for her, and I think she oversaw basically what's what in Texas is our TAC, Texas Association of Community Colleges. She was over the California system, but I included all this because I learned something every time I read it, the way they phrase things, the words that they use. Very practical, but very important. And so I thought this would be helpful to you as you're going to be looking again at your statement of ethics to see whether it covers everything that you want it to cover.
Some of this language is very well thought out and deliberate, I think,
yeah.
which is really good. And I think we're going to have to balance not making a 200-page document, right? Keeping it relatively simple while still making sure that we are fully describing what we expect of ourselves.
So that's my general overview of these materials. I know you're going to want to look at them and go back and dissect and then see what you can pull out from that. But any questions at this point?
I would ask Dr. Escamilla, just because you have so many contacts with other community colleges, are there any community college that you would particularly like us to look toward as we do this work?
I think you have them, in particular San Jacinto College, Community College. That's been one that we've emulated for a long time, for a lot of reasons. I think on the evolutionary kind of scale, if you will, we're evolving toward that. We are actually an older institution than they are, but they grew in a way that we have emulated in many ways. Their curriculum is very similar, and those are the things that Dr. Turner was talking about earlier, that you were alluding to, that, Houston has everybody has their uniqueness about them. They are, although significantly bigger in terms of credit enrollment, they are by the curriculum, by nature of the curriculum, positioning and on geography, demographically, very similar to us, just a larger scale. But I think that, even that opinion right there, my opinion, needs to be expanded upon. We need to do more research, look at other colleges, because they've changed dramatically over the past 10 years. Nothing has been the same. There's been so many leadership changes, and I think because of that, there is reason to go after and go look at other institutions as well. I think your network at CAT would be a resource for that. That's what I think.
Thank you, that's helpful. And Mr. Rivera, I would ask you too, I appreciate you including the ACCT Code of Ethics and then also the information out of California. Are there other non-Texas institutions that you think we should look toward?
I started that, but I wasn't able to find anything as of yet, but I'll keep looking.
One of the things I'd caution about that is, or add to, not even caution, is that different states, let me see if I can, all states have different systems. Yes, they are very, very different. We are more like Florida than any other. California is a state system.
Right.
Florida is too, but they're individually governed, more like us, and so forth. So you'll just have to really, the composition of their boards are made up. They're appointed by governors. They're not elected.
I agree, Dr. Dexter. I think we've got enough here in
Yes.
Texas, and if we get off into something, we're going to inadvertently contradict a state law, and I think I wouldn't go there.
Yeah. That's why I said CAT, your state organization, I think can help with that.
That's good direction, thank you. And I think I was thinking certainly not in terms of weeds and abiding by state law, but more if there were more general, just ethical statements. But it sounds like we're covered.
There is one, and I need to confer with you, Dr. Skamai. I didn't have time to get there, but I was thinking about where else. That's why I didn't include the entire California handbook, because most of it is completely irrelevant, and, financing and all that is just different. But maybe looking at some of the Aspen Institute,
Yeah.
winners. The Aspen Institute is it's a nationwide recognition
Yeah, that's what it is.
for community colleges that meet certain standards of excellence. And in fact, I think San Jacinto College
There's several Texas colleges right now that are on the list
that have been
for
recognized.
recognition.
But that would be one place to go where we could look at how others are doing. And it's not just ethics. I mean, it's overall operations. So I'll look, but understand that we're not looking to go too far. Texas is big enough. We've got.
I have a question since
Yes.
I'm new and you two been here for a while and you've been here for a while. Is there a weakness in our bylaws currently that we should maybe really dig into, or something that we should maybe focus a little bit more on? I'm just trying to figure out a starting place, because obviously,
Yeah.
so I didn't know if there was an area, I don't know if you discussed it last week or not, or if there was something that we really needed to go through.
No, that's a great question, and I think the answer to that is yes, and exactly, and let me offer to you all kind of my thoughts about how this may proceed, and then certainly, Susan, I'm interested in your experience since you did this before, and in talking to Mr. Rivera about this, I thought this would be a good use of our time today. Give us some information that we can review, that we would meet again in 2 weeks, because we have a relatively short time period, and that we would bring back, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, some of our sort of high-level areas that we think we could probably do a better job. I don't think we at this moment have to say, and it belongs here in Section 2, letter A. I think we need to back up just a little bit and say, you know, I think we do need to have something in here about a cooling off period for regents who go to work for somebody who may do business with Del Mar. Things like that perhaps aren't anywhere in our policies or bylaws right now, so that Mr. Rivera can then have an idea of kind of what's on our mind about things that we may want to beef these up a little bit. And then at some point in the future, I think we are going to have to line by line go through our bylaws, go through the proposed policies, go through the code of ethics. Dr. Escamilla already pointed out at our last meeting that in our bylaws, it says that we shall review the mission statement regularly. Well, what we read at our meetings is our vision statement. It's two different things. So we do have some cleaning up we need to do. A few little things like that I noticed too. But I'm thinking for our next meeting at least that we do keep it a little bit more high level and each of us bring, okay, well, here are some of the areas, and especially after reading this and the materials that have been brought to us today, where I'd like to hear discussion from you all whether we're in agreement that these types of things should be considered. Does that make sense? Sound good? Okay.
It would be helpful, if not now, at the very next meeting, if there's a shift in kind of the approach of how detailed they are. You know, if somebody said, I really think we don't get to the details enough, we need to beef these up completely, that would be one approach. But I don't want somebody going in and doing that if others are saying, let's keep it bare bones. You know what I mean? And I personally, I'll just throw out there, I think we've got a pretty good approach right now, which is not overdoing it and yet covering enough. But if anybody has a different direction, let's talk about it.
That's good. Thank you. Does that help, Dr. Turner? Good. Does that sound, Dr. Escamilla, Mr. Rivera, does that sound okay with you? Okay.
Yeah, I always like a roadmap, sorry. I'm in education, so I know I always need to know where the end is and where the steps are, sorry. I'm just
No,
kinda-
that's absolutely appropriate, and given that we want to meet our deadline of presenting some recommendations to the board by September, and summer will be here before we know it, and
And plus, there might be areas where we don't really need to touch anything at all.
Right,
They're fine.
absolutely.
They're ongoing. There doesn't need maybe a word here and there, and we can just cover those, and then we can do deep dives into the areas that need to be just brought up to date. Really.
right. I agree with Regent Hutchinson that I think what we have is very solid, especially as I hear what some of the other institutions are working with, and I do think we'll spend a fair amount of time on the proposals from Weaver about the board policies, because that is brand new, and we'll need to make sure that those are in harmony with our bylaws. Okay, good.
I think it was interesting looking through here on the draft that he kind of proposed. It's like everything's in blue. It's like, okay, so did he just rip up the old one and just put in the new one?
Well,
'Cause
that was
I
a-
don't see
I think these are
whole lot.
just the ones, I mean, I think they were just adding. It wasn't,
yeah, this
wasn't
is
so
pretty
much getting down to the details.
So
right?
that actually
that
was
was
a
pretty funny.
question I had, was prior to the Weaver proposals, did we have much in the policies around board ethics and behavior or conduct? Or were they all in the bylaws?
They weren't all in the bylaws. I mean, you had essentially what your conduct, your statement of conduct, I think, was also in your policy. I mean, there was a section on it. But Weaver just elaborated on that, provided more details.
And I think much of what Weaver has proposed came out of our retreat last year as well. Many of those topics we discussed there as well, so.
And when you're talking about the policies, is when you're talking about the book and everything that the chapters that you're going through and updating, that's where you're talking about where all the policies are, because you're kind of separating things out and you're updating those chapters, correct? Because I'm trying to just kind of get a glimpse where everything is. Does that make sense? Because when we did the workshop and we're looking at those separate chapters and those are all the policies and we're updating and you have a timeline and so forth, you're referring to those, correct? Just so I know where my frame
That's
of
right.
reference is.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Being new, it's kind of, I have a,
Just ask any questions, it doesn't have to be today, you can call us.
Right.
no, I just kind of want to know where my references are when you're talking about policies and changes, because I understand you're changing some of the policies and updating the policies as well, and these are what's coming out of them for the changes that we need to kind of maybe make and look at, correct? I'm
Ri-
just making sure that my brain sits in the right spot.
Is in the right
sorry.
direction. No, that's fine. And for our purposes, what we're focused on too is the proposed board policy changes related to ethics and conduct, yes. And the business that we do. Yep. If that helps. So is there anything then, what deliverables do we have from you for our next meeting, if any?
Do you want to tee up your bylaws and the proposed changes by Weaver and have a discussion about that?
I think we may have time to start that next time. If we go back and, in reviewing some of this, maybe bring our handful of big picture areas that we think we could use a little work. We'll share that with you, obviously. And I think we would still have time at the next meeting to perhaps start to move into the Weaver proposals.
Regent, and for Regent Turner as well,
Yes.
On page 3 of the minutes, okay, you'll see the list that you all actually discussed at the last meeting of the specific items. So you already have a good head start there of some items that you would like addressed and some deliberation on. So this is a great first step, and then now that you have these other materials so you can use in comparison, and then bring, as you say, we can be prepared to, walk you through these.
Good.
Anything additional that you have, and then also begin the process of going through your bylaws and the Weaver changes, step at a time.
I think that will be very helpful. And then Mr. Rivera and staff will also, they'll do a lot of the weeds work for us once we identify the direction we want to take and some of the changes that we want to see. They'll know the appropriate place to put the proposals.
And check for compatibility and things like that, yeah. That'd be very helpful.
Yes, thank you. Other questions or comments?
I also wanted to mention, we have Dr. Villarreal here, and I think it's a good, your timing couldn't be better. She's keeping an eye on what's going on in Austin. And so she's working with the team here that's helping you all. I wanted to acknowledge that. And we'll see if they can get through the session without breaking anything. No comment, huh, Dr. Rita? Huh, Dr. Escamilla? No comment. But there are some things that they're looking at, and we'll just keep monitoring those and see. Nothing to report yet on that, but.
Okay, good.
I did mention this to Regent Averett, and I'll say it. Now, one other item, I think one other issue that you might want to add to your list, and that's you do not have currently in your bylaws anything that addresses the issue of absences. And of course, under state law, you're required to make at least 50% of your meetings in a given year, in a calendar year, in order to remain on the board. And so I just put that on the list for you to talk about. And it'll be up to you to decide how you want to handle it, what you want to recommend to the board, but maybe some guidance on that or not. But that, I don't think it's in there now. And so I just wanted to add that to the list. And like I said, it's a matter of state law. You can't make anything new up. But I think the term is excused absences, and so, excused implies that, there's some mechanism for seeking an excuse, and that there may be some that are unexcused, and so.
Yes, like when I mentioned I got pepper sprayed, and that should,
In my opinion, that would be excused.
versus just not showing up. And
Right.
like it.
Right.
In the city boards, there's excused and unexcused.
Right.
So,
Good, thank
Okay.
you.
Yes.
Thank you for that reminder. Dr. Escamilla, is there anything else from your perspective?
No, we are here, both Augie and I are here to facilitate. This is largely a board function, and it is our job to make sure you have any and all resources and information that you need. That's how we'll be, and that's how we're positioned here.
Thank you.
You see it differently?
No, not at all. And I want to say one more thing before Dr. Wilson and Dr. Sambi kill me. But as our SACS overseers, I just want to let you all know that whenever there's a whenever there's a significant substantive change to your bylaws, that could trigger a duty to report to SAC COC. I don't tell you that to ward you away from making significant substantive changes, if you, that's, or recommending those to the board, because again, all you're doing is recommending it. But our SAC COC stewards wanted me to remind you all that that's from a governance standpoint, that's something to keep in mind.
They're watching.
That would be one piece that would be, pardon me, that would be one piece that we would need to, or you might want to consider looking at, are those aspects of the accreditation process or the accreditation guidelines that pertain to board governance. It's hand in glove with all that you're doing now that Augie's bringing that up, and I wouldn't make that the focus just yet. Don't want to expand this too much, but it might be worth at least having it handy as a resource. Again, I'm kind of like with Susan, I don't want to make this thing too complicated, but they are very closely related. So at least have it handy dandy as a resource. I think would be helpful.
Just notification at this point, that's all, not to keep in,
I will trust that you will tell us when it's beyond notification and we need to actually do something.
Will do, will do.
Good. Well, let's talk about calendaring for next meeting. As I mentioned, I would like us to meet in 2 weeks if that's possible. And I don't know, Lori, or Dr. Turner, if Thursdays work well for you, but the 29th is certainly open on my calendar. Late afternoon is a good time for me. Yes. And I don't want to speak for Mr. Rivera, even 4:30 is fine with me too, as opposed to 4, if that makes it easier. Okay. So let's say 4:30, April 29th. Does that work for you, Mr. Rivera?
It does. I'll be
Okay.
rushing but that's fine. That's not a problem. I'm here to help.
Okay. Well, let's pencil
Yeah.
that in. I do think that we probably will want to meet about every 2 weeks for a while, at least as we are able to do that. Okay. Good. Any other business? Seeing none, I will adjourn this meeting at 5:25 p.m. Thank you so much for your attendance.